I'm waiting just all right. Ready to go?
Yep.
All right. Welcome back. It is episode 15. I know we missed last week. I'm so sorry. Had a lot of things going on. The worst week to miss. We missed our initial playoffs. It's okay. We're coming back. We got a new segment this week. I know everyone's excited to hear about that. We got a brand new segment. So I'm going to go through it. We're going to talk about some stuff. We got a lot to talk about. First off, we're going to go over the playoffs. We're going to have our predictions for the games this week, the divisional round. And then we're going to go over some Super Bowl predictions from before the season even started. Me and Dallas, I had to tell Dallas yesterday that our picks were not that, well, they were a little disappointing. I'm not going to lie. But we're going to go over that. We're going to get ready for that. And we got a lot to talk about. So we're going to go over that. Then we have a new segment, a segment that we attempted at an SMC trivia night. We have Do You Know Ball, and this week's is 2000 sports legends / their performances. And then we're going to talk about some college basketballs. What will it take to make it in March? We have a lot of teams right now, a lot of big teams that are just on the border of making it in the tournament according to bracketology, but also some teams who are projected out. So we're going to go over what they need to win, when they need to win to get in the tournament. And then the NBA is almost at the midseason mark or just a little bit over. So we're going to pick our favorite teams from the West, and we're going to go through all the awards. And then, of course, we're going to recap. Matthew Cassidy did get his college football prediction correct. Dallas also had Georgia winning. Rishi, you and I at least had one of the teams in it. So we did good. And then we'll go over last week's hot takes and go into this week's. But first, we're going to talk about the NFL divisional round. The first game I have on, I went in order of what times the games are played at, is the Jaguars versus the Chiefs. So for this, we're just going to give our prediction of who wins, say what the score will be, and then maybe a couple of reasons why you like this team. Who'd like to go first?
Yeah, I can go first. I was going to say that I'm definitely going to take the Chiefs to win this game, but I wouldn't be mad at anyone for taking the Jags plus 8.5. I think that there's a chance they could keep this game close. They showed last week that even if they go down by a lot, that they can stay in a game. And so I don't hate it if you're taking Jags plus 8.5, but I'll take the Chiefs.
Yeah, I'm also taking the Chiefs in this one. And funny thing is, Rishi, my score prediction from this game was Chiefs 31, Jags 23. Okay. So I have the Chiefs plus 8 here. So that bet would be interesting for sure. I think the Chiefs are just too much for the Jags to handle. Even though I really like the Jags, I think they could run a few things on offense that could cause the Chiefs some problems. I think Travis Etienne is going to be huge in this game for them. He's going to have to get going again. And then Evan Ingram as well. I think it's going to be tight ends. Can they cover Kelsey, and can Kansas City cover Evan Ingram? Because Evan Ingram's been career year this year. I think he has another big game. And I see Jacksonville keeping this game quite more interesting than everybody else thinks.
Rishi, did you have a score prediction for me?
You know, I'll go with 35-31.
You said you thought the Jags would cover.
Yeah,
they're covering.
That's within covering. Yeah.
Big covers. That's good to see. I'm actually going to go off the page. I did not get to see a lot of the Jaguars versus Chargers game. I just saw the fact in the fourth quarter that they shut Justin Herbert and that team out and went on a little run. I've been really in on the Jaguars since about the mid-season, actually early season. I really like where they're at. Just looking at it, Trevor Lawrence had one of his worst games. I don't know if you can get much worse than throwing 3 picks in the first quarter of the game. I'm also not a big fan. I told Dallas this today. I'm not a big fan when teams have a bye. I think sometimes you get teams that have a little bit of momentum built up coming into this game. I'm going with my gut. I think they win on a field goal. I'm going to go 31-28. I think the Jags that defense goes full on how they played the Bills last year. If anyone remembers that game where they just stifled the Bills the whole game. I think they have a really good defense. They have a lot of key contributors on that defense and a lot of guys who are super athletes. So I'll be excited to see what they can do. And looking at their injury report. Nobody really looks super out. Brandon Sheriff, their offensive lineman, and Luke Fortner are both questionable with injuries. Jamal Agnew might be a little bit important, but I think this team's pretty good. And I think I don't know. I don't know if the Chiefs are as good as we all believe. So I'm gonna go Jags beat the Chiefs by 3. Last second field goal. So on to another game with another team who shocked in the first round of the playoffs. The Giants face the Eagles. NFC East matchup. 3 NFC East teams are still in the playoffs. So where do we feel about the Eagles versus the Giants?
I'll go ahead and start. It's a division game, man. So I don't care if you think the Eagles are 10 times better than the Giants or whatnot. It's going to be a close game. It's going to be a really close game, and I have the Giants winning this game. I have the Eagles winning this game. Sorry, I have the Eagles winning this game 24-20. I think it's going to be a defensive battle. They've already played each other twice. I think teams will know what they like to run. I think it's going to be tough sledding for the offenses out there, but I think the Eagles pull this one out 24-20.
I can give you a quick fact on the Eagles. So this game is this game going to be played indoors or outdoors?
Well, both it's at
It's outdoors, right?
It's outdoors.
So this game is going to be in freezing temps. I think it said it was low 30s projected, and the Eagles haven't played a game that cold, I think, in about a month. So I found that interesting, and then also the fact that they're coming off a bye. If you look, I actually went back and looked at, like, out of the last 7 or 8 teams that have come off a bye in the playoffs, only 2 or 3 of them have actually come out and had a slow start on offense. So between the two, I was like, okay, between the Eagles and the Chiefs, who do I think will be more likely to have a slow start? And that's why I'm going with the Giants in this game. And for the score prediction, I guess I'll steal Dallas's, but I'll flip it and I'll go 24-20 for the Giants.
Wow, they knock off the Eagles, the powerhouse of the NFC all season. That's interesting. That's an interesting take. Just, going into some advanced metrics here. I think it's going to be an interesting game. Looking at the Philadelphia offensive pass versus rush, it is a 52.7% of rushes are so 52.7% of their plays are rushes and 49.73 are passes. So I think they have a really good chance at being able to kind of beat the Giants in both ways in this game. Just looking at their offensive scoring, they are scoring 191 points in the second quarter this season. So I think that's an interesting thing to look at. Defensively, they've given up the least. They have a negative 143 net total in points. So that means they're giving up less points than they're giving up a lot less than they're putting up on the board. I think it's just tough to say. They don't give up many passing yards. The highest week they've given up was week 12. They gave up 165. It's hard to go against the Eagles for me. Dallas knows we've been on the Eagles all season. But it's a tough game. I think New York has shown a lot with having Brian Daboll in the building, but I think they're just a couple pieces away from it. And I think the Eagles are going to maybe get off to a slow start in the first quarter, but by the second quarter, I think their wide receivers will be able to do things. They're a fully healthy team coming into this game. I have them winning 31-17. I think the Giants put up a fight for a little bit. I think the Giants got lucky pulling Minnesota in the first game because I thought Minnesota was a straight fraud in the playoffs. They made it to the playoffs on 6 game-winning field goals. So I didn't really think that was going to carry over in this playoff run, but it could have. Personally, I'm just not in on the Giants either. I think they're good. I think Daniel Jones is good. I just think Philadelphia is simply better. And they're probably a tougher team to be playing this season. So I'm going Eagles 31-17. On to probably the toughest game to predict. The Bengals play the Bills in Buffalo, right, Dallas?
Yep.
So it is in Buffalo.
It is.
Shouldn't be in Buffalo. We all know. We all know. This is a good game. This is a tough take. I think I want Dallas to close this one out. So Rishi, it's got to be you or me that open this up.
This was one that I went back and forth on of what I want to say. Ultimately, my pick is and has always been the Bengals. But I was thinking to next week, would I rather be wrong because the Bengals lost, or would I rather be wrong because the Bills lost? So, Alex, what I'd like you to do is for our picks, write down the Bills for me, just because I'd rather be wrong because the Bills lost. But in my heart, I'm picking the Bengals, and on game day, that's who I'll be rooting for.
You got a score for that?
I'm gonna be honest. Anything I'm saying is gonna be a guess here. So we'll go 24-21.
That's
close game.
I had the same score in my mind personally. I'm going to leave Dallas to the last one here because he's a Bengals fan. I think the Bengals actually have a really good chance. Also looking at NFL Savant, Cincinnati has been a little bit better than Buffalo has been this season in the rushing by literally 7 plays. They run more rushing plays. They also run more passing plays. I just want that to be noted. And I think they're just a little bit better on paper for me. I'm still a little iffy about the Bills secondary with how many injuries they sustained this year. I think it's massive that Von Miller left halfway through the season with an injury. I think it kind of hurt and hampered their pass rush. I think they're going to have to rely on a lot of throwing against the Bengals. I don't know how much they're going to be able to get in the run. The run has been something that the Bengals have been stuffing a lot. I think the Bengals are just too good. I think I have the Bengals winning 31. I'm going to say 31-17. I think the Bills get enamored by the Bengals defense. I think it's not going to be a game Stephon Diggs wants to be in. I think Eli Apple's actually been pretty good this season. He's not been as bad as people thought he was last year. He's played really good against top receivers. He played really good against Tyreek Hill. So I personally just think it's too hard to say no to the Bengals. They're just so good. So I'm going Bengals here.
Okay, first point for me is NFL, man. Already selling tickets for Chiefs Bills AFC title game. No. That's not going to be the AFC title game. I'm sorry. The Cincinnati Bengals are going back to the AFC title game. Von Miller loss is huge for the Bills. The defense really hasn't got much rush after him. Going down, the backside has been okay. Tre'Davious White really hasn't been himself in the secondary. Elam had a pick against Skylar Thompson, but it's been all right. But the Bengals, man, they got the weapons all over the place. And Alex mentioned Eli Apple. He did get toasted by Demarcus Robinson against the Ravens, but that was one time this year. Everybody dogging him for that one time, but he's been super solid all year. Cam Taylor-Britt has stepped in for Chidobe Awuzie and played very solid as a rookie, especially in the first playoff game. He played very good. Last half of the season, played very solid. The run defense has been exceptional, and the pass rush really hasn't even been that well. Trey Hendrickson and Hubbard can get home against the Bills. Josh Allen will have a tough day. But ultimately, the Bengals defense, I'll give it to the Ravens. They exposed the Bengals defense a little bit in that game. Obviously, the Bengals defense held up in the fourth quarter, which is why actually have a way higher scoring game than you guys do in my predictions. I have the Bengals winning this game 38-35. T. Higgins, monster day, 100 yards and 2 touchdowns. You can put that as a hot take.
Love it.
T. Higgins, 200 yards, 2 touchdowns.
100 yards and 2 touchdowns. 200 is way too much, but 100 yards, 2 touchdowns.
I would like to say, looking currently at NFLFootballDatabase.com, so looking at this, the Cincinnati Bengals have a plus differential in takeaways. So that means they're getting more turnovers than they are giving away at +6. The Bills have split even this season at 27 total turnovers for their defense, but Josh Allen and that offense has given away 27 total turnovers itself. So I think this is an interesting game to look at as like, what does Josh Allen do when facing a good defense? No offense, Miami is good. I think Xavier Howard's a little old though, and he didn't really perform at the best level that I was looking to see. So I think it's tough to say. Miami's also been one of the worst teams. They're at a -7 differential. The only teams that are worse than them are the Jets, Raiders, Saints, and Colts. So I think it's tough to say that they had a really good game against a team that was playing a third-string quarterback. You can't do much with a third-string quarterback, in my opinion. So I'd be interested to see what they do. Rylan has the Giants winning, by the way, if anyone wanted to know that. He is in there just dropping takes. So Rylan and the Giants. But I think it's going to be an interesting game. I think honestly, I just think the Bills are going to show their flaws, and I think they need another year to team build again. So on to the last game. It is the Cowboys versus the 49ers. The Cowboys had an impressive win against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the inevitable GOAT of Tom Brady. But who do we have in this game, gentlemen?
I can start out. So my heart was totally set on the Cowboys after last week. I had picked the Bucs to beat the Cowboys, and so once the Cowboys demolished them, I was like, all right, maybe they've got something real going on here. But if you watched any of the 49ers recent games, you know they're a real team, and they've been extremely hot since the Christian McCaffrey trade. Are they undefeated since that trade?
Yes.
So yeah, that combined with the Cowboys kicking woes, who knows what's going on in that locker room right now, the uncertainty that's going on. And so I'm taking the 49ers in a blowout. I'll go 34-12, because maybe we get some missed extra points or something.
So you have the 49ers winning
34-12. Yep.
Wow. A straight skunk fest.
I have the Niners in this game, 27-21. I think the Niners will be up late, and the Cowboys will score some garbage time points at the end. I think the Niners defense holds the Cowboys. Dak has a few turnovers in this game, which he didn't have against the Buccaneers. The turnover difference is going to be huge. If the Cowboys can get some pressure and force Brock Purdy into a few, I think it could be an interesting game. But Niners O-line has been amazing. McCaffrey, he's got the weapons out there. And then if the Niners defense forces any turnovers at all, I think the Niners win this game. So that's why I go with the Niners.
I just want to be noted, the turnover differential, the Cowboys and the 49ers are 1 and 2. The 49ers have 13. They're plus 13 in their differential, while the Cowboys are at plus 10. So Dallas, you're not very far off on that take. I think I'm looking at this currently, looking at how many points teams have put up this season. Offensively, the 49ers have scored 450 points while only giving up 277, which is the league least amount of points given up all season. I think it's just going to be tough. I think this is a really good coach defense and a really good team. They know their strengths. They know their weaknesses really well. Kyle Shanahan's built an offense that Brock Purdy has thrived in this season, and I think it takes a lot of that decision-making away from him. I think it's going to be tough for the Cowboys to get an interception or a fumble. You really have to hope for something crazy with Brock Purdy. He played really good last week and a very calm system quarterback. So I think it's going to be tough to get him to make a lot of wrong decisions unless you get home on the pass rush, which still, when he's been pass rushed by the Raiders and those teams, he still played pretty good. I don't think the Cowboys stand a chance. I have the 49ers winning 35-7. I have them blowing the doors off the Cowboys. I think that the Cowboys are going to have a tough time to establish the run against the front that the 49ers do own. And the fact that I think the 49ers might have a deeper bag of plays than the Cowboys do. So when things aren't working for the 49ers, they have a lot of big playmakers to put on the field. Deebo Samuel, George Kittle, Christian McCaffrey, Brock Purdy, all these guys, Brandon Ayuk, all these guys can do something. I think the Cowboys are lacking that still. I think Tony Pollard's a great asset to have. Zeke's good when you run behind the blocks. CeeDee Lamb's had an okay year, but I think if I'm looking at it, who's going to be more dynamic? The 49ers are probably going to be more dynamic.
I do want to say, early in that Seahawks game, my number one thought from that game is Brock Purdy is not the guy. I think from what I've seen of him in the red zone, I think he's pretty good, and I don't think this is the game where it falls apart for the 49ers, but I will say it's not really a hot take to say the 49ers will not win the Super Bowl, right? I don't know if that's necessarily a hot take, but that's what I
don't really think it is.
They're
the 2 seeds, so I mean, it's hard to say something like that.
But I guess my point is, I fear that Brock Purdy will let them down at some point in the postseason, but this is not that game.
Yeah. I think it's going to show at one point. I think, like you said, I think it'd be a next week thing if they face the Eagles. That's a game that I could see them getting trapped. The Eagles have a really good defense too, in giving up scoring. They're currently 5th at 344 points, but I think they're one of the highest in offensive scoring this season. The Eagles. Yes, they're 4th in offensive scoring. So I think it's going to be a tough game. It's just going to be a tough game. So if the Eagles and the 49ers make it to next week, I think it's going to be an interesting game. I'd like to see. I think Brock Purdy will decide how far this team goes, though. Like you said, Rishi, I think he will be the deciding factor of, can this team make it as far as we believe they can? But just to go back, we actually made these Super Bowl predictions before week 1. Me and Dallas had the Chargers for the AFC teams in the Super Bowl. Austin, Rishi, and Adam had the Bills, so their Super Bowl hopes are still alive. Me and Dallas had the Eagles. Austin had the Buccaneers, but said if the Eagles make the Super Bowl, he will buy a JT Barrett jersey. Interesting. Rishi had Minnesota, who just missed out after a rough performance. It was a good dude. That was a good pick. I can't lie. Early in the season, I was not with you on Minnesota. And then Adam had the 49ers. So everybody's teams were really close. All our teams made the playoffs. That's all that matters. None of us had a bad take and said the Colts were going to make the Super Bowl or something ridiculous. But we got a lot to watch out for, a lot of things. Does anybody have anything to stamp on this week's games? Rishi, any betting advice? Is there a wagon you need to hitch to a wagon this week?
I don't know. I guess really I like a lot of the underdogs this week. I think putting a little bit of money on the Jags, Giants, and Bengals. I think at least one of those is bound to hit, whatever one you like the most. But I'd say my best bet is definitely 49ers -3.5.
I like that. All righty. So we had last week in the SMC meeting, we had a little trivia game night. But we came up with this game. We may have given it a name. It's called Do You Know Ball? So Do You Know Ball? I got 5 questions each week. You at home can continue along with us as well. This week's Do You Know Ball? It is historic sports stars / their historic performances of the 2000s. So most of these, I'm going to give you a date or kind of a year, and I'm going to tell you what their performance was, and you're going to tell me which player it was. Are you guys ready to go?
As ready as I can be, I guess.
Yeah.
The people at home are ready too. I can feel it. I can feel it. On March 16th of 2007, this Lakers player went for 65 points, 7 rebounds, 3 assists, and 3 steals. Who am I?
So, are these questions easy to hard then?
Yeah, these are the. I'm not gonna lie. I think I gave you layups. A couple of them are layups.
Okay, then I'm going Kobe.
That's the obvious answer.
I gotta write your answers down real quick. The correct answer is Kobe Bryant. That was the easiest question, I will tell you.
All right, I'll take that.
All righty. College basketball. On January 13th, 2018, this Oklahoma legend went off for 43 points, 11 rebounds, 7 assists, 10 for 18 from 3-point field goals against TCU. Who am I?
I think we're unanimous on this one, Dallas. If you want to give the answer.
Trae Young.
It is
Yep.
Icy Trae. Rishi, did you also have Trae Young?
Yes.
Nobody healed?
No, yeah, I thought it was Brady Manic, actually.
If it was a little bit earlier, but he healed. But he was in the league at this stage. So
in 2006, this is college football. In 2006, this player went for 200 rushing yards, 267 passing yards with 3 rushing touchdowns, including 1 to win the game in the Rose Bowl. Who am I?
2006 dual threat quarterback with how many touchdowns in the Rose Bowl?
3 touchdowns, 1 to win the game.
So
Are me and Dallas are we allowed to work together here?
You can. Feel free.
Or go ahead.
I'll
what were you
even-
gonna say?
I can even tell you who. Do you want a hint on who the team played?
Who they played?
Yes, who the team he was playing against in that game.
Okay.
It is the USC Trojans.
A name that popped into my head straight away, Rishi. I'm 3 years old at this stage. This is just a player that popped in the head. The Texas Longhorns and Vince Young type into my head. If that rings a bell to you, Rishi, at all.
I mean, he definitely did. He played in the Rose Bowl, I think. So I love that answer because it's much better than anything else I had in my head. So I say if that's right, we give Dallas the points, and I wouldn't have gotten that right.
That's gonna be my guess because college football didn't really get into it too much until I don't know Taj Boyd at Clemson. This is 2010s, 2011. So
that's what I should have put in here. Taj Boyd. That would have been a great.
Oh, I would have got Taj Boyd for sure.
I wanted to be known. I would have gotten the Taj Boyd question.
Would you are you gentlemen locking in your answers of Vince Young?
Yeah, I think Dallas is right.
It is Vince Young. That is correct.
Good stuff.
Now we're on to the NFL question. I'm going to get you guys here. This is the one I'm getting you. If not, it's question 5. January 12th, 2013, this NFC quarterback went for 263 yards with 2 passing touchdowns, 181 rushing yards, and 2 rushing touchdowns against the Green Bay Packers in the divisional round. Who am I?
2018?
Nope. 2013.
Oh, 2013.
Yes. I can't give you the team on this because if I give you the team, it's over.
All right. So
I can tell you where he went to college, though.
Oh, let's hear that.
I should know where he went to college. Why am I Googling this? The University of Nevada.
Dude,
that was not what I was thinking at all.
Yeah, who went to Nevada? Oh, Kaepernick. There we go. That's
final
right,
answer?
Right?
That's a good answer, Richie. That's good. That's good, yeah.
It is Colin Kaepernick.
Let's go.
Good stuff, Rishi.
Dallas, did you not give an answer on that one?
Once he said Kaepernick, I knew it was Kaepernick, but you just give
I'm gonna always let you guys work together. I think that's how I feel. I think if we all win as a team here. We're all SMC.
Okay.
We all win as a team.
Alex is also 4 for 4.
Yeah, these questions are good. I mean, I told you guys. All righty, the tough one, the unknown question that I wrote this week. It is about the NHL, gentlemen. This NHL All-Star returned in 2009 after a battle with Hodgkin's lymphoma, and then scored 229 points over the next 5 years, winning a gold medal with Canada. Who am I?
So let me get this out of the way. I don't know the answer. Dallas, what about you?
I do not watch hockey a lick, so if it's not like, Alex Ovechkin, Sidney Crosby, like those two, then I have no idea who it is because
I can help you. It is neither of those two players.
I don't even have a guess then because I don't even know.
I am going to help you, gentlemen. Just give me one second.
Give us the team. What was the team?
The team he returned to was Pittsburgh that year. He was a Pittsburgh he's a Pittsburgh legend, actually.
Is he a defenseman?
No, he is a center. He was drafted with the first overall pick in 1984 by the Pittsburgh Penguins.
Man, 1984. I was negative 17 years old. Let's think here. Hockey legends that played for Pittsburgh. I will probably know the name, but I don't know if I'm gonna get any good guess out of myself.
Recently,
right
a Penguins player broke his record of being with the Penguins longer than this player. Crosby broke this guy's record.
Yeah.
What team
Rishi, I don't even have a guess, bro. I don't know hockey.
Will you know any names if I throw out some names?
I mean, I potentially, but I doubt if they're like, this is probably like they're later in career. So
he played for a long time and then he had to medically retire. And then this is when he comes back. This is his second time around.
You want to give us initials?
When did he retire?
Technically, okay, I also had the year wrong, so that's definitely on me. It's not 2009, it is 2000, and he returns in 2000. Sorry, I definitely read that question wrong, or somebody typed that thing wrong online. He returns in 2000 after a battle with Hodgkin's lymphoma. He left NHL in 1996, then returned in 2000 to play until 2006. I will give you the initials, ML.
Oh, I know it. Can I just do it now?
Yes.
So I always hear Canadian people pronouncing his name Mario Lemieux. I always thought it was Mario Lemieux, but I always hear people saying Mario Lemieux.
It is Mario Lemieux.
I have no idea who that is. I'm sorry.
Hockey legend.
I'm sorry,
Hockey legend.
So
I would not have gotten that.
Is a hockey fan watching this? I'm sorry. I don't watch hockey. I'll watch the Stanley Cup Finals, but I'm not into players like that. I know probably a few players. Like I said, I know Crosby, Ovechkin, Connor McDavid, baby.
You gotta know Gretzky, man. That's
I know Gretzky.
All right. Well,
also,
gentlemen,
to be fair, he was pretty much retired before Dallas was born, right?
Yeah.
So fair enough.
I mean, he technically Dallas and I were born the same year, so I knew who he was. So I feel like this was. But gentlemen, the first episode, you guys got a 5 out of 5.
Let's
episode
go.
number 1. So that means episode number 2 will be even harder.
Thanks for the layups in the beginning, man.
The Kobe one, I felt like the Kobe one, I could have got you on it. If I didn't tell you the Lakers player and I said he played against the Trailblazers in this game, I think I would have got you guys stuck there.
Probably, yes.
The NFC quarterback one, I thought I had you until I felt bad about just giving you NFC, but I should have told you, my hint should have been the Packers rival in every divisional round ever.
I might not have gotten it then.
The anti-crux of Aaron Rodgers, the San Francisco 49ers. So it's a good episode, good 5 out of 5. Just know next week, I'm trying to think what next week's topic should be. I'm thinking 1990s ballers, maybe.
Okay. If it's
or
NBA,
street
I might get 'em.
legends. Street legends might be a second.
Are we talking?
People know these guys in the streets. People know these guys in the streets.
Okay.
I mean, I'm just thinking of some personal ones here.
Give me a name.
Thinking like some Mario Chalmers action, like some true. Maybe it'll be underrated ballers. Maybe that will be the segment for next week. Underrated ballers, people you should know. But now we're past that. I just thought it was a fun little segment. We always want to see who knows ball and who doesn't know ball. I was told that night I didn't know ball, and I won the trivia. So once again, maybe Rishi one week will get to write the questions. He just won't get to be a part of it. I don't know.
If you want to play, I can do that.
Maybe. You like have some storytelling questions, like Paul Revere and this guy in 1996, 100 years after Paul Revere.
Shout out to the LeBron James kid, DeMarcus Cousins remix.
Yes, that is. Yeah, when you're pulling out vines and we have to figure out what vines are, it got a little tough. But now we're on to college basketball. This has been a massive talking point this year. There have been some massive teams, some massive powerhouses who have struggled so far this season. So we're going to talk about some of these teams and talk about what it takes to get them to March. The first team, of course, since we're from Indiana, Rishi's not. I don't know if he wants to talk about this. The Indiana Hoosiers are currently not ranked nationally and seemingly have struggled. They're 12-6. I don't know their Big Ten record, but they've had some struggles so far. What do we think it takes for the Indiana Hoosiers to make it into the tournament?
I'll start us off here. I don't know how much college basketball you guys watch, but I know Alex can contest. I watch a lot of college basketball whenever I can. So I'll start us off here, and I have a few key points here. I looked at their schedule. I looked at all these teams' schedules we're about to go over, and I highlighted some key wins that they have and a few games that they need to win moving on. IU, they have a very big win over Xavier earlier in this season. Xavier was not ranked at the time, but they are a top 10 team now, I believe. They beat UNC while North Carolina was ranked. I know North Carolina has fallen, but North Carolina is still solid. They beat Wisconsin when Wisconsin was ranked, and then they just beat Illinois last night, which is a good Big Ten win. The need to win portions, I'd say, I looked at their schedule. I'd say they need to beat Michigan State once. They already lost to Rutgers and Northwestern. They need to beat both of them. And then they play Purdue twice. I said they need to either beat Purdue once or keep it close both times. And then I think they'll be solid. Right now, they're already in the tournament as a 9 seed, according to bracketology. They're 3-4 in the conference. If they can bump that up and finish like 5th or 6th in the conference, get a few Big Ten tourney wins, there's no problem for IU getting in.
Yeah, I think that last sentence I can definitely agree with. I think at some point, some IU fans might have thought they had a chance to get a higher seed, maybe a 2 or 3 seed. At this point, I think they're looking at probably the 7 to 9 range, but also, I wouldn't be that concerned about missing the tournament if I were them. Like, they'd have to have some pretty rough stretches through the end of the season to miss out on the tournament entirely. But yeah, similar to Dallas, I kind of looked back and I was like, I picked 3 games on their schedule. So they've already played these teams each once. And so I think they need to avenge maybe 1 or 2 of these Iowa, Rutgers, and Northwestern losses. And then I think you can say, hey, we've gotten wins against these teams that are going to be in the tournament. And then you can say we're pretty certain we're going to make it.
Yeah, I feel the same. I'm actually looking at something a little bit different here. I'm looking at Ken Palm rankings. So Ken Pomeroy creates rankings for defensive efficiency and offensive efficiency and defensive efficiency. Currently, IU sits at a 114.6, so 25th in offensive efficiency and 96.2 in defensive efficiency, 96.2 in defensive efficiency, which has them sitting at 41st. Just for anyone's note, you want to be probably in the 20. You want to be anywhere from 15 to 25. In both going into March, that would be ideal, but anywhere from 50 and above is pretty solid. You're about middle of the road or a little bit better. So I think they really need to work on their defensive efficiency. My biggest worry with this team currently has been struggles in the player department. They're currently missing Xavier Johnson with an injury. So that has kind of hampered them a little bit. So it's forced Jalen Hood-Schifino to step into a full point guard role as a freshman. So I think that's something if you're looking at them on paper from another team's perspective, you want to attack Jalen Hood-Schifino as much as you can. See if you can get him into foul trouble early in those games. I think it's going to be important to get back Race Thompson. He's also been plagued with injuries this season. I think looking at their scoring, Jalen Hood-Schifino and Trace Jackson Davis are the only players scoring above double digits. Xavier Johnson is just below at 9.9. So I think you're going to need a high amount of efficiency. And I honestly hate saying it. I think you want to see Trace Jackson Davis spread the floor. He currently has a 0.0% from three. I know he plays their center most of the games, but you want to see him step out, be able to force people to come out with him onto the 3-point line and do things. And I think limit the turnovers. Jalen Hood-Schifino has 3.1 turnovers per game. I know that's not a lot when people are thinking about it, but you don't want to see your point guard turning over the ball pretty consistently. I think they're just going to have to all step up and get to the next level. I think Malik Renew is a big player to put on the highlight for me. I know Dallas is a big fan of Renew. I think he's going to have to step up. I think he might have to be a big part of this team if Race Thompson does continue to miss games. So how do we feel? I think maybe I'm going to give it a confidence meter. Like, are you completely worried about IU, or are you trending towards I'm feeling okay about them?
I'll just say right now they're going to make the tournament.
Yeah, I'll use this instead as a time to get this take off. I don't feel great about the Big Ten basketball wise this year. I think there are a lot of teams that when you look at the national coverage on them, people view them as a tournament team, but then I think once we get to tournament time, some of these teams are going to be 7, 8, 9 seeds matched up against good mid-major teams, and they're going to get exposed. That being said, we'll talk about a couple Big Ten teams, I'm sure, later on, and I'm in on some Big Ten teams, but that's how I feel. That's my panic meter on the Big Ten right now. Is I think a lot of them are going to get in, and a lot of them are going to lose the first weekend.
I think my crux with the Big Ten this year has truthfully been defensively standing. Defensively, there's really good teams in the Big Ten. Rutgers is currently third in defensive efficiency in Ken Palm ratings. So I think it's going to be tough. Looking at this, there's some teams that I see that are really high up in defensive efficiency, including St. Mary's and Iowa State. Those are two teams I don't know if I would want to run into in the tournament right now, just because they're going to shut you down, lock you out. Boise State's 11th, TCU's 19th. A lot of these teams are just really efficient teams. Iowa's 5th in offense, but 121st in defense. So I think that is a scary sight. If you're an Iowa fan, you do not want to be in that spot. So, you're going to have to just continue to see where these teams keep stepping up. I'm actually going to skip the team we had second, and I'm going to go down to North Carolina. I think North Carolina is one of the teams in one of the biggest panic spots currently. They haven't been good all year. They didn't really get off to good wins to start. But you guys want to go over their big wins, I guess?
I have you right here. I got you. They have right now, really, you're looking at 3 key wins on the table. And the last two I'll talk about in a second. But they have a win over Charleston, who is 20-1. Great mid-major team. North Carolina handled them pretty easily. I think they beat them by 16 or so. And their other two key wins, if you even call them key wins, is against two Big Ten teams. They played Ohio State and Michigan. They did beat both of them. I don't know how you feel about those teams. I think we're going to talk about Ohio State maybe in a little bit, but I don't even know if you consider those teams tournament teams at this stage. So I don't know how key they are to win, our wins. And I have need to win. They lost to Pitt. That was a very good game Pitt played earlier in the season. They got to beat Pitt. They have to show that they can beat their biggest rival, Duke. They have to show they can beat Duke. And then three ranked teams on here that are interesting teams. Clemson is ranked, playing unbelievable, first in the ACC this year. They got to beat Clemson. They got to beat Miami. And they played well against Virginia the first time. I think if they beat Virginia again, these are hard games again in the ACC. And if you lose these, like, you're going to be bottom of the conference in ACC play. And then it's really going to come down to the ACC tourney, where last year, that's where North Carolina was a little bit underdog. And then they started piling up some wins in the ACC tourney and got hot into March. And I think almost similar field this year to North Carolina, but the expectations were way higher. So it could be a similar situation to last year, but getting into the tourney is going to be tough.
Yeah, I think UNC preseason, they were the number one team coming in this year, right?
Yes, they were number
one.
And
so they were a team where I think maybe certain factors, like I think Brady Manick not being on the team this year is something that voters might have overlooked in terms of how much that was going to hurt them. He was a big piece of their success last year. And so looking at their upcoming schedule, they're going to play some legit teams before the year's done. And so if you can't get a win against NC State, who you play twice, if you can't beat a Miami team, I mean, they've got two games against Duke too, but I'd say at this point, I'd be more worried about those Clemson, Miami games. And so in Pittsburgh, I think they play. So yeah, they're going to have to, I think, prove it against some of those teams if they want to be considered as a Sweet 16, Elite Eight, Final Four type of team. But right now I'm pretty similar on them as I am with Indiana. I feel confident they're going to make the tournament if they win the games they're supposed to. But they'd have to show me something for me to feel confident about them going into March.
Yeah, just to note, North Carolina currently sits at the 63rd best adjusted defensive efficiency. There's a few teams above them that are probably teams that I would take. Looking at it, West Virginia's at a 48 right now in defensive efficiency. IU is higher than them. So I think it's going to be interesting to see what these teams can do. I'm kind of looking for ACC teams to kind of compare. Duke sits at 33rd in defensive efficiency and 41st in offensive efficiency. So, I mean, they're pretty similar. They also have them looking the same. NC State sits at 46. So there's a lot of these teams that are very close to them and very comparable. I think their keys is that Armando Bacot does need to perform. I felt like he has been the missing piece he was a big piece for them last year, was very crucial in a lot of games. So I'd be interested to see what his performances are looking like. He's got 17.6 points. I think, you said something about it, Rishi. Pete Nance was the guy who is currently filling in that Armando Bacot or in that Brady Manick role. He's 10.6 points and 6 rebounds per game. Leaky Black has struggled this season, getting 30 minutes, but only averaging 7.1 points with 5.8 rebounds. And their bench has been pretty lackluster. Everyone on their bench or past basically their fifth and their sixth man are getting 4.1 points per game. So you'd like to see some of those guys possibly step up. So just get them on the floor, let them see what they can do. DeMarco Dunn is shooting 45% from three. I don't know how many 3-point shots he's taken, but I mean, if his hand is hot, I'd be looking to get it to him. Caleb Love's RJ Davis is shooting 38.3% from the field, or from 3-point line. So those are guys that you probably need to give a little bit of more, let them get a little bit more run. Some of these other guys, Caleb Love is shooting like 25% currently from three. So maybe it's a schematic change, get the ball to these guys more, run a little more plays for them. but they probably need to elevate. And I think Baycott probably needs to be doing a lot. I think he's averaging a double-double, which is hard to say. He's not doing a lot, but I feel like he's kind of the glue for this team. And I think when he has a good game, the rest of the team has a good game. But when he has a bad game and he gets shut out by another center, I think the team feels it from a reverberation point. So they're going to be a tough team. I'm on the fence about them. I think they had some very big losses at the beginning of the season. Dropping from number 1 to unranked, it's tough for them. I think, a loss to an Iowa State team that's really good. They lost to Alabama. They lost to Indiana. They lost to Georgia Tech. They lost to Pitt. They lost to Virginia. These are all really good teams this year so far. But I think you're going to have to prove they have one of the toughest stretches here. I think they go NC State, Syracuse, Pittsburgh, Duke. I could see them losing all 4 of those games. So I don't really think and then the only get right game, maybe like a Wake Forest, but then you go Clemson, Miami, NC State, Notre Dame, Virginia, Florida State, and Duke to close the season. I hate saying it, if they're not playing well, I could see them losing almost all of those games except for a Wake Forest game and a Florida State game and maybe Notre Dame. So you really want them to step up. I'd really like to see this team perform. I just want it to be noted, every game that they have lost this season, Armando Bacot has not been the leading scorer for the team. So I think that is an interesting thing to say. So you can only go as far as your best player can go. They did take Alabama to 4 overtimes. I think that's an interesting fact to say. Alabama is the number 4 seed, right? The nation.
Yeah, they're 4th
seed in the nation. So they're a really good team. So you could go blow for blow with them, but you're going to want to see them go blow for blow with a lot of these teams in the ACC just to continue to stay at the level and to get in the tournament. So. But are we good on North Carolina?
I have one thing to add. North Carolina's tournament run last year, if you look at it, obviously Baycott was huge, but RJ Davis and Caleb Love were absolutely incredible. They were shooting the lights out. They were scoring at will. If you go back to that Alabama game, I believe Caleb Love at 38.
34.
Somewhere in there, yeah, 34. He's got to play better, and I think he will come ACC tournament time. Those 2 guys are key. And when Baycott went down with the injury, they have this kid from Indiana who is 6'10", 6'11", Jalen Washington. Stepped in against Virginia when Baycott rolled his ankle, played very good basketball. I think if they really need to, they could go 2 bigs to try out some new lineups, because I think that's where Hubert Davis has gone wrong. Really keeping the same lineups in, not working. You got to change something up. Try to go 2 bigs in there. Jalen Washington, 6'10", 6'11". He can step out. He can play inside out. So he could be a very good complement to Baycott. I think he just needs to try some things, honestly, right now, just to see if he can find something that works. But the guard play is going to be huge for them down the stretch.
I agree. So I kind of skipped this team because I wanted to kind of go Big Ten, ACC, and now we're going to come back to our first SEC team. It is a team that unfortunately is way too close to my heart. The Kentucky Wildcats have been a very middling team this season. Currently, they sit at, just give me 1 second to get their record open. They are currently at 12-6, 6 in SEC play. They are 3-3 with a massive win in the past couple of weeks against a number 5 ranked team in Tennessee. What does Kentucky need to, or let's just say, what does Kentucky need to make it to March at this point?
I've got 7 games on their schedule left. Essentially, these are all tournament teams, but I say you got to win 4 to 5 of these games. You've got A&M, Auburn, Tennessee, Georgia, Mississippi State, and then you play Arkansas twice. I think you got to get at least 4 to 5 wins there for that to feel good about them making the tournament at large.
I'll add another piece in there, Rishi. You don't even have to win this game, but if you can compete with Kansas, I think that adds a little bit to the resume. When you face these top 5 teams, I don't know how the committee and stuff that they put on bracketology does this, but if I am a team and I play a top 5 team, it would just be a top 5 Tennessee team. If you come in and play it very well and lose by, say, a couple points to Kansas, I think that adds points to your resume. I know it's a loss, but number 2 in the nation, if you can hold them down, keep them grounded a little bit and not get blown out like IU did against Kansas. Kansas overmatched IU in every single way. So if Kentucky can show they can hang, that'll be good. But they do need to win those Texas A&M, Arkansas, Auburn. I think those are 3 big ones that they need to win, especially when you play Auburn only once. If you can beat a ranked Auburn team one time, that is huge come tournament time.
Yeah. I know I've been on KenPom quite a bit here. They currently have Kentucky sitting at 23rd in offensive efficiency, which is great. 71st in defensive efficiency. They were 103rd 2 weeks ago, so they're improving on their defensive side. I think the biggest thing, the key for me, is what Kentucky needs to bring on the floor. I think you have a lot of really good players on the floor currently. I just want to tell you, Cason Wallace is shooting 41.8% from 3, and Antonio Reeves is shooting 39% from 3. So if those are 2 guys that you really want to see keep stepping into the role that they're in, Cason Wallace has been a fantastic freshman point guard. Honestly, I think he's possibly up there in the freshman of the year. Probably behind Brandon Miller and behind a few guys, but you want to see if you got more guys step into the roles. We've seen a lot of guys get a lot of minutes this season. I think Cal's finally ironing out what his offense needs to be and where guys want to be and how he's going to use them. I do think there's been a lot of criticism of Severe Wheeler. I think he is a great player. Don't get me wrong, but I do not believe he can be on the floor for Kentucky Wildcats. They've proven in the past 2 games that Cason Wallace is a ample and very well suited ball handler to have. So I think, like you guys said, they're going to need some big wins. And I think the SEC tournament is going to be a pretty key point for them. I think they're going to have an SEC tournament where, they beat a few of these teams. My hope would be they beat like an Arkansas or an Auburn or, maybe even compete with an Alabama. If you lose to Alabama in the championship, that is I feel like you're stamped to be into the tournament. I just think defensively, they're going to have to get a little bit better. You want to probably see them near the top 50, maybe pushing top 45 by the time we get later into February. And then just continue to explode on offense. You have Oscar Tshiebwe, reigning National Player of the Year, still putting up a really good case for National Player of the Year. I feel like there's a lot of guys that are still in that race, but you really want to see him probably step away and really help this team. Like I said about Armando Bacot, he is the glue for this team. You can't have a game without Oscar Tshiebwe. I mean, he's averaging a double-double at 17 points and 13 rebounds. So he's crucial to be on the floor, but you want to also see other guys step up and help this team in a big way. Sorry, I'm typing something. All right. Back to the Big Ten. We're going to talk about Ohio State. Do any of you guys watch Ohio State? Because I don't know if I watched them. Actually, I take that back. I did watch them. I watched the game they lost on a buzzer beater.
I'll tell you guys right now about Ohio State. The game we did watch was against Rutgers. They won on a buzzer beater. That was a solid win. But after that, I mean, I literally have on my notes right here for them to get in the tournament. They need all they can get because right now you look at Ohio State, they sit 13th in the Big Ten Conference. That's just not – all these Big Ten teams aren't going to get in. So you look at the Big Ten as a whole here, and they're 2-5 in the Big Ten. Minnesota is the worst team in the Big Ten by far. But you're going to have to jump up massive here and win these games in the Big Ten to even have a chance. They're 10-8 overall, 2-5 in the Big Ten. They're going to have to jump at least to 500 if they have a chance, and it's going to come down to the Big Ten tournament for Ohio State. And not saying they're not good, but they need to be a little bit better. KenPom has them ranked 21st overall right now. They're 11th in offensive efficiency. The defense has not been there recently. They've fallen off pretty far.
They're 82.
But the numbers and stuff, the team they have a solid enough team, but they just can't put a whole game together. They turn the ball over a ton. Me personally, I think Ohio State is not going to make the tournament.
I just want to say the strength of schedule of offenses they have played is 86th, but the defenses has been 16th. So they should be clamping up teams, but they're also getting clamped up. So kind of seems like the low scoring Big Ten basketball we're all very used to.
I mean, people have put up a lot of points on Ohio State this year, but what I was going to say is so crazy about them is 2 weeks ago, Ohio State fans would have been talking about what seed they were going to be in the tournament, not whether they were going to make it or not. They were 10-3, 2-0 in the Big Ten, and have gone on this 5-game stretch with 5 close losses, and all against all right teams. Minnesota is the worst loss out of all of those. But so now you're looking at a situation where you're playing Big Ten for the rest of the year, and if you keep winning at the clip that you're winning right now and you're just above 500, you might not make the tournament. But if they can pull together a couple of big wins, especially some of these road games, they're going to have to go on the road versus Illinois, Indiana, Michigan, Purdue. And so if you can't get any wins there, then you may not be making the tournament.
Yeah, for sure. I think my decision on them is I don't think they'll make the tournament. I think the culminating loss for me is losing to Minnesota. That is a team everybody needs to beat this year. You just watch Zach Edey absolutely manhandle them last night. So I think that's tough for them. An interesting team. The Big 12 has been a very interesting league this year. How many teams are in the top 25, Dallas? I think it's like 6. So
yeah, it is 6. It is 6.
Yeah. So Oklahoma has been an interesting team. Everybody's kind of got them sitting a little bit towards the bubble right now. I just want to know where your guys' feelings are towards Oklahoma.
I can say I think they'll make the tournament just because I think the committee will give them a little bit more credit for the amount of Big 12 teams they're going to have to play. And I think that if they can remain above 500, they'll be in the tournament.
I'm in agreement here. I don't think there's any arguing right now that the Big 12 conference is the best in college basketball this year. So you play close with these teams. I think that's good. And you look at the 6 ranked teams are there, and then you have Oklahoma sitting, I believe, 8th in the Big 12 right now, right beside Oklahoma State. And there's 10 teams in the Big 12. I think realistically, you probably see 7 or 8 Big 12 teams in the tourney this year. So they're going to be one of the last teams there. They're going to need a few signature wins. So
they have 0. They've played 4 signature teams and lost all 4 signature wins.
Once these conference tourneys roll around, it's going to be very interesting to see if they can upset somebody in there, which they already hanged with Kansas. They proved they can hang with these big teams in the Big 12. So I think they will get a few signature wins. I think they probably slide into the tournament. Right now, they're the last team in. I think they probably move to the top of the last 4 buys, if not safely into the tournament.
Yeah. And then we have this is the last Big Ten team I believe we have. We have Northwestern, a very interesting team so far this year. A very predicated defensive team. They currently sit at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 in the Big 12 play at 500, 3-3, 12-5 on the season. They have 2. They've won 2 out of 3 AP poll wins. So those are teams that were ranked in the AP poll. Where do we feel about Northwestern?
I think their ceiling is high enough to play with tournament teams, but their floor is definitely too low to feel confident about them. And they're a team that could definitely still miss the tournament with the amount of Big Ten teams are going to have to play for the rest of the year. But if I have to give them a yes or no on whether they'll make it, I'll go with yes.
Just because how good they are on the defensive end of the floor, I believe they'll make the tournament. And a team like this is scary if they get in. They can cause some problems, especially if they play defense at the high level they have been. I think, honestly, I'd probably say they'd be safe in the tournament thing. Imagine if they would have beat Auburn. That was a 43-42 game. They lost by 1. Couldn't score the ball at all. The defense is there. That's a tough one there. The loss to Ohio State's a little bit tough, but this team, Michigan put up 85 on them last game, but they can really clamp in on the defensive end of the floor. Northwestern is an interesting team for sure. I think they get in and are a scary, scary out on the defensive side.
Yeah, looking at Ken Palm rankings, their offense is abysmal. They're ranked 126 in offense, but their defense is a top 15 defense. So, like I said, you might want to get closer towards that 75 number. When you get closer there, we might be okay. I might be saying I'm confident, but I really want to see that offense expand. Want to see them do better. They have like I said, like IU, they have 2 players scoring above double digits right now, 2 guys very close to it. Their 3-point shooting has been okay. It's not been great. It's not been worse. It's not been the worst I've seen. But you really, they're a very predicated 3-and-D team. So you really want to see them shooting at a high clip. It might just be, it takes them a couple more games to get to that level, but they're a good team. I think they're interesting. I'm with Rishi on, I think at their lowest, they're going to miss. And I think at their ceiling, they're going to be making it in. Where they make it in, I'd like to see them at like a 12, maybe. Like a 12, I would feel like pretty safe. A 10 max. A 7 would be concerning for me. A 10-7 matchup for them. If they're a 10, they could definitely clamp a 7 team. Just looking at teams, I'd probably be 7s. I mean, you put them against like Oklahoma State or like a Memphis or like a Providence, I think they could probably get a good win. But I think they'll struggle when they face a lot of dynamic players. I think that Auburn game showed that they could guard dynamic players, but you put them against Brandon Miller, these top players, I think they're going to struggle. And I'd probably like to see them continue to get more wins in the Big Ten. I'm looking at their schedule right now. They have a top, Michigan State was top 20 when they beat them. They lost to Auburn by 1 in a very low scoring game. They got blown out by Pittsburgh, who's been a good team. An L to Rutgers and Michigan back to back is kind of concerning. I know they just had 2 of their games postponed, right? Yeah. So they're postponed. So they go back and they have Nebraska, Minnesota, Iowa, Michigan, Wisconsin, Ohio State, Purdue. I think the crucial stretch for me to watch is the Ohio State, Purdue, Indiana. The end of their season is like they have 7 games that are all going to be top 25 matchups. I mean, like you're playing a Purdue team that's really good. You're playing an Indiana team that could be good. Iowa's very good. Illinois is trending towards being decent. Maryland's been good so far this season. Penn State's kind of a border team, and then you finish the season out with Rutgers. So you want to see them continue to, I would say their last, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 13, 14 games. You'd probably want to see them win 8 of those. 8 would be a good number for them to be in the tourney. But other than that, I feel pretty confident. I like this team so far. So they can continue to get wins. That will be a very good thing for them. I honestly just maximally minimize the screen I was on. Oh, there we go. Okay, back to the next team is New Mexico State. Where are we on New Mexico State?
So New Mexico here, they were in the top 25, I believe 2 weeks ago. They were 22. You'd say, top 25 team, they'd probably be safely in. Well, when you're a mid-major team like this, you're never really safe. Even when you're in the top 25, they only put you in there because they were undefeated at the time. Didn't really play too much competition. They have some key wins on the season, though. They beat San Francisco, who's a very good team. They beat a ranked San Diego State team. They beat St. Mary's. who's very good on the defensive end of the floor. New Mexico can score the ball. They do have Jamal Mashburn Jr. on the squad. He's a very good player. For them, I say for them to safely make the tournament, and I see no issue with them finishing top 2 in their conference and probably most likely winning their conference tourney. I believe, let me look at their conference now, that there is a few teams in there that cause some problems, like Boise State, San Diego State, and Nevada. Those are the only 3 teams. Those 3 teams are above them right now, but I believe
Utah
New Mexico
State's good
will
too.
take them. What, Rishi?
I was going to shout out Utah State. They've been playing good too.
Utah State has been solid for sure. The Mountain West has been very good. If you look at the Mountain West right now, and if you stop the play, I believe they have, let me take a little look. They have 3 teams in the tournament. So the Mountain West is sneaky. I see no reason why New Mexico doesn't make the tourney. They're a good team.
Yeah, I think that I don't know how I feel about New Mexico in March itself. I don't know yet how I feel about them, but I do know that I think they're making the tournament for sure. They play too many teams that are definitely either at their level or below their level to me not have a good enough record to make an at-large bid. So yeah, I think regardless of whether they win their conference tourney or not, they should be a tournament team.
Yeah, I agree with you guys. I don't have much to say on this team. I don't really watch. I'm not a college basketball stan like Dallas is. So I'm gonna stick with you guys on this one. But on to the next one. It is Creighton, a team that we were all very high on to start the season. Dallas was extremely high on them. Just kind of seemed to fall off the board a little bit as of recently. Where do we think they're at?
I don't know what you guys think, but I think it's going to be very hard for them to be able to make the tournament with the schedule they've got coming up. The Big East is one of the better conferences in basketball this year, and they're going to have to play Xavier at least once, maybe. Yeah, they played them once. UConn, they're going to have to play. They got to play Marquette, and they have to play Providence. And so I don't know. I think it'll be hard for them to piece together enough wins to be an at-large bid at this point. I don't know what you guys think.
I'm right there on Creighton. Obviously, I really like them to start the season. Some sluggish play. They took some close losses, but they did lose to UConn and Xavier, but they did bounce back with a nice little win against Providence. Solid win at Butler. They should win that game. The St. John's game is going to be actually huge. St. John's is actually not that bad. They can get a win there. Then you try to bounce back against Xavier once again. And then you get a stretch of Georgetown, the worst team in the conference, Villanova, who's really struggled with talent this year, not like a Villanova team at all. Seton Hall, who just beat a UConn team who's on a high. This conference is very interesting, and I think it's a matter of who gets hot at the end of the conference and who can win the conference tournament, because I could very well see a team, I don't know, like Creighton winning the conference tournament, but I could also see somebody else coming in the conference tournament and finishing second. I think right now my favorite team in this conference is Marquette. Marquette is looking very good on the season. I know Xavier is good, but I'm not sold on them just quite yet. I want to see more from them. But Marquette, they have the big guys. They have the guard play. The defense is there. Marquette is my favorite in the Big East, but Creighton, I'm putting them on the borderline. I'm not sure about them.
Yeah, that's how I feel too. They're okay. They were good to start the season. I think it's going to be tough, like you guys said. And then we're going to get on to the last team. I know I'm speed running through this. I just feel like we've been going a little long here, and I want to get to the NBA. So Oregon, where is Oregon? Oregon is our only Pac-12 team we had in this conversation, by the way. So either the other ones are going to make it. I think UCLA is feeling like a lock right now. They're 12th and 5 in Ken Palm, so they're a really good team. But where is Oregon at in your guys's I guess, mirrors? Are they in the rear view or are they in front of us?
Dallas, I don't know how you feel about them.
So Oregon, their last game, I believe, or last game, obviously they played California. California is one of the worst teams in the nation, D1 wise. They're really bad. But the game before that, they blew out Arizona. So I want to see if they can create some momentum in the Pac-12 when you blow out a team like Arizona. Then you have a softer end to the schedule when you play Cal and Stanford and Colorado. Can you bounce back from those three, win all of those, and then come back and play Utah, Arizona, Arizona State and get 2 wins there? Okay, if you can get 2 wins, and then you can slide USC and UCLA, can you get one of those games? If they get those, I think Oregon makes the tournament because they end the season with 5 teams I think they should beat. So they should be on a high going into the Pac-12 tournament. So I think they can get in the tournament. I really do.
I think they're talented enough to get into the tournament, but I also think we should wait till I think we'll know a lot more come February about this team.
Yes, I'm in the same boat. I like them. I feel confident about them. ESPN has them currently ranked at 75th in the Basketball Power Index. So you're thinking about 64 teams are making the tournament. So these are the teams above them. There's a lot of good teams in the Pac-12. There's a lot of bad ones. But like Dallas said, I really think a UCLA win would certify them a tournament spot. They got to win those easy games, and then you got to win those hard games. I think USC may just overpower them with the big play, but I think a win against UCLA, maybe even if you get both against USC and UCLA and win all those games that Dallas was talking about, I think you have a for sure certified tournament team. But that is enough for the amateur side of basketball. We are now on to the pro side of basketball. It is the middle of the season 2 here. And we're going to go over, first thing we're talking about favorite teams. And then we got some MVP, ROI, DPOY, 6th man of the year, most improved, and coach of the year. So let's talk about first our favorite teams from the East and the West. Whoever would like to start that out, just fire away.
I can start us out here. My 2 favorite teams right now, from one team from the East and one team from the West, are my finals prediction right now. I know it's probably like a easy layup pick, but I think these teams are right now better than everybody else, and that's the Celtics and the Grizzlies. That's who I think is going to make the finals. These teams do it on both ends of the floor. The Celtics, they started very good, and then the defense kind of started lacking, and everybody was like, where's the defense that they know they can play? And all they've done in the last 15 games is be first in defense, and they're still almost keeping up this crazy offensive pace that we haven't seen in a long time. So they have enough for sure. And then in the Western Conference, I'll take these words like Ja. They interviewed Ja, and they said, who in the West scares you? And he said, nobody. And I'm in agreement right now. Nobody scares me in the Western Conference. I think the only reason I don't say Denver is because their defense is not that good. So that's the only reason I don't say Denver.
Alex, I'm curious to see who you'll say because I don't want to talk about the same team that you were going to say.
I looked at the East. I'm not a really big fan of the East this year. I think there's a lot of middling teams at this point. I like the Bucks. I think the Bucks are an interesting roster to look at right now. I'm still struggling with the fact that you are still missing Chris Middleton. I know Giannis just got hurt. How long is he out for?
It's just knee soreness with Giannis. They like to manage that from the finals that he hyperextended his knee back 2 years ago. So he's out, 1-2 games. He'll come back for a few. He'll sit one. That's the only reason I don't pick Milwaukee right now is because they have too much of that in and out. And it's crazy that they're still, second in the Eastern Conference when they have so much lineup change. So that's the only reason I'm not picking them right now. I love the Bucks, and if they can solidify a lineup and get Middleton back, man, I'd love to see them in the Celtics in the Eastern Conference Finals, and that'd be a crazy matchup.
Yeah, I like the Bucks. Looking at their shooting splits, I think they've struggled this year from three personally. I feel like those guys that who are always flamethrower locks have not been flamethrower locks this year. Pat Connaughton struggled. Joe Ingles has struggled a little bit. They're just below. They're like at 30% or just below. Chris Middleton, not having him has really been a pain in the butt for them. I feel like Brooke Lopez is playing out of his mind right now, by the way. I just want to say that. Brooke Lopez might deserve DPOI because man is just out there hustling for this team. Drew Holiday's been good. I'd like to see them add a veteran player. I'm not the biggest Grayson Allen guy, so a veteran shooting guard. I'd like hate saying it, like Jamal Crawford would be a nice piece on this team. I think I want to see them either when Chris Middleton comes back, I want to see an expanded team, or I want to see them truthfully just lock in and set a team. So I think the Bucks are my favorite from the East. I wanted to go Celtics, but Dallas went with the Celtics. So, I took another team because I don't want to be like, oh, Celtics are amazing. No, I'm going to be honest. They're a good team. They got a lot of depth. They're going to be good. I mean, Giannis is always good. So, I mean, like I said, in college basketball, your best player can carry you a far way, but you also want guys around him to help out. The Western Conference, I'm really in on the Kings right now. The Kings have been fantastic this year. I mean, we talked a couple shows ago about the Halliburton trade. I think that was a great trade all the way around. But this team has really expanded. De'Aaron Fox is leading the team in scoring. Domantas Sabonis is helping out, averaging a double-double. Kevin Huerter's been a straight flamethrower this year. Kevin Huerter is shooting 41.6% from three. De'Aaron Fox is shooting 33. Domantas Sabonis is almost shooting 40. Harrison Barnes is on fire. Keegan Murray's dropping 40% from three. Trey Lyles is doing good. It feels like this whole team has just kind of been constructed, and they're just playing really good. My only concerns would be that if it goes bad, it goes bad for this team. Like, there's no, we're just going to be okay. It's like, we're either really good or we're going to be really bad. But I think if they can hang on, stay in about the 5 seed for me is where I'd like to see them personally. Like, the 5 is a pretty safe spot for them. They're in the third. They're third right now because they're first in the Pacific. Just kind of stay in that spot. Just don't let anyone jump you in the Pacific. I think the Clippers are going to maybe start making a run. Golden State's going to get better as they go. The Suns and the Lakers, I don't know what to say about them. They've both been just horrific this year. They're both missing, it feels like, all their pieces. But honorable mention of the Pelicans. The Pelicans are also putting it together. But I think it's going to be an interesting season to see. But I really would, if Sacramento can hold on to the 2 seed in the Pacific, that would be fantastic for them.
Yeah, I thought I was going to end up talking about the Kings because I didn't think anyone was going to say anything about them. But surrounding De'Aaron Fox and Domantas Sabonis with shooters makes them so hard to guard. And so I would say, in terms of my favorite offense in the NBA, it's a toss-up between the Kings and the Nuggets. They're definitely 2 of my favorite offenses to watch. But if I have to pick my favorite team, my favorite story in the West this year is definitely the Jazz. I think that just seeing Lauri Markkanen, a guy who people 2 years ago might have thought was on the decline in terms of his value in the NBA, is just, and not to go too far ahead into what we're going to talk about, but when we talk about most improved player, he's firmly in that conversation. So I love the Utah story, but I know Dallas talked about it from a playoffs perspective too. I think outside of the Nuggets and Grizzlies, who you got to worry about in the playoffs is definitely the Mavericks. I think Luka's ability to take over in the playoffs will be interesting to watch. Eastern Conference, I think my favorite story out of the East this year is definitely the Cavs. They've got a chance. I mean, Donovan Mitchell has always been probably in whatever, the star tier in the NBA, and he's shown the ability that he might be able to play to a higher capacity than that this year. And I think that the Cavs have a chance to put themselves in that elite group of teams in the East this year, with a couple teams like the Bucks struggling while they have injuries, and I know the Sixers have had some injuries this year. The Nets obviously have had some injuries, and so they definitely have the opportunity to put themselves in that elite tier this year in the East.
Yeah, I think the only thing I'd want to say about the Cavs is I don't like them being in the 5 right now. I think, a 76ers team and a Brooklyn Nets team above you is kind of, if I was their coach, I'd be a little bit mad about that, personally.
I also
They
think,
just drop games here and there. It feels like,
yeah, I was gonna
so,
say I forgot to mention with the Mavs. I think they're gonna make another move before this year's all said and done.
yeah. They're on a tough stretch right now. I'll say that. The Cavs played New Orleans on Monday, played Memphis yesterday or Wednesday, and they played Golden State, Milwaukee, New York, Houston, Oklahoma City. So I mean, I think they have a tough schedule. So if they continue to grind out wins, stay in like the 3 or the 4 spot, I'd be really happy. But like the Dallas said, I think it's Memphis to lose this year. I hate saying that, but I think the thing about Memphis is this is just a really complete roster to me. Like you look at it, every guy knows his job. I think Jaren Jackson, not to go into what I'm going to say about DPOY, has been fantastic. But this team is just well constructed. Their starting lineup is fantastic. They have guys on the bench who are really good. I think there's even a possibility of they could make a trade. Like they could move a couple pieces and go get somebody. I haven't been following the trade rumors as of recently. I don't know who's on the block. Let me look. I mean, there's not really anybody. I mean, is there anyone to you guys that's been like talking about moving or wants to get out of the building of where they're at?
The trade deadline talk this year has been pretty quiet around the league. The Toronto Raptors are sellers. Van Fleet is a guy that could be on the move. I don't see a top team necessarily needing him, so I see this trade going bottom half to bottom half if they do decide to move on from Van Fleet. This is definitely going to be an interesting trade deadline. I think it could be, since a lot of people aren't talking about it right now, I think it could be an interesting trade deadline for sure. And a lot more moves go on than we probably think because it's been a little bit too quiet. Like Rishi said, I definitely think the Mavericks, if they want to contend, they have to make a move. I'm not sure who they trade or.
I think Tim Hardaway has to be out of the building. I think that's the one guy that's I feel like he's kind of handicapped them this year, almost feeling like it. He's just not playing good. Like they paid him a lot of money and he's just been just meh. I mean, that's just how I feel personally.
Yeah, I think what Dallas said, like Toronto, I think that's what's going to hinge what some of the big moves might hinge on this trade deadline. But another name I've heard is Rui Hachimura. I don't know if he necessarily solves the problems Dallas is looking for or the Mavericks are looking for. But yeah, it'll be interesting. Obviously, Miles Turner is always in the news. As far as I know, has not signed a contract extension, correct?
Yeah,
No.
declined it.
Yeah,
I think the interesting thing would be I think if the Pacers feel like they've hit their ceiling with this team and they're just willing to, I mean, I think the thing is with the Pacers, you can't dump games because there's teams who are so far down right now that it's just going to be tough to let them go. It's just going to be tough to trade them knowing that you're not going to have a decent pick. There's still really good players probably past the 5 pick. So, what are you going to do there? I mean, looking at this, I'm looking at people who are on who are the trade rumors right now.
There's one other name out there that I think is very interesting. I read this 2 days ago. There's been reports Kuzma wants out of Washington. I think that is a very solid piece for somebody to go get. Now, who does he fit? I'm not sure. In the Eastern Conference, you look at the squads. I really don't see him fitting on any of those teams in the East. He won't fit on the Grizzlies or the Nuggets either. I say, if you look at it, the Pelicans could be interested in Kuzma. There's a few teams like I'd even say the Warriors could hop in on Kuzma. They could use Kuzma as well, but I don't know. I don't see a solid landing spot for Kuzma yet. That's what makes me a little bit intrigued on see if the Wizards really move him or not.
I think the Wizards moved someone, or I think they moved someone.
You
can
go
ahead
and finish yours. You're already in. I'll throw my trade name in a minute.
Okay, I was gonna just say, I think the Wizards trade someone out of that front court, but I do think that their asking price for Kuzma is gonna end up being too much, and it might end up being a guy like Hachimura. And one other thing I kind of forgot about as we talked about, I remembered the Bulls are in a position where they could blow it up a little bit. They could trade some of their bigger contract guys.
Yeah, the player I've been seeing the most rumors about is John Collins. I think he's interesting. I think his height's kind of a problem for a power forward. So, but there's rumors about him being paired together with Lauri Markkanen. That would require in this trade, it would be Malik Beasley and Karis LeVert. It'd be a three-way with Utah, Cleveland, and the Jazz, or Utah, Cleveland, and Atlanta. That would be an interesting trade, I would say. I don't know how well John Collins and Lauri Markkanen would work together, but if they're looking to make a title push, they have the cap to do a lot of these things, I would say. So they could make a splash. They have the cap. But I don't know if you're willing to do that for John Collins.
I think my prediction is he doesn't get traded for the same reason as Kuzma. I think Atlanta's gonna want too much for him, and no one's gonna want to give up the amount of draft capital they're asking for.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, this has been the same story for a year and a half now on John Collins. So Atlanta's price has been high on the man, and considering that at the start of this year, and I'd even say right now he's having a down year in his career, I don't see you want to give up a player and a first round pick for him right now. So he's probably gonna, I don't know I forget what his contract is, but if he'll be a free agent soon, I believe. So that's what most teams are probably waiting on with Atlanta, and Atlanta is going to have to lower the price if they actually want anything in return.
Yeah, so we got into a little bit of trade talk. I know we weren't expecting that, but nevertheless, it's always interesting. But we're on to the MVP, Rookie of the Year, DPOY, Sixth Man, and Most Improved and Coach. First is the MVP of the year so far. I would like to hear the arguments. I'm currently looking at what ESPN has. They have the odds. They have leader is Nikola Jokic. In the hunt is Luka, Jason Tatum. Ja's back there in the running a little bit. Joel Embiid's up there. I think Josh should be ahead of Joel Embiid, but who do you guys have?
I'll get this straight. I want to pick Luka, but the team's not going to be, I'd say they finish around 5 seed or so. So I am going to pick Nikola Jokic for a third straight MVP. And there's a few reasons why. I mean, the man's averaging 25, 11, and 9.9. So he's almost averaging a triple-double. This is a center we're talking about right here, almost averaging a triple-double. They thought when Westbrook did it, they thought it'd be like first thing since Big O. I really think they haven't talked about Jokic that much doing it. This is incredible for a center to do, leading your team in points, boards, assists, steals, shooting 62% from the field. He does everything for this team. So I really look at MVP-wise. I know some people like to go, best player on best team, do this stuff. That's why Tatum's in there and stuff. But if you take Jokic off the Nuggets, they're not a playoff team. They're just not. The same thing could be said for Luka, and that's why I have them too as the top of the MVP, because if the Mavericks don't have Luka, they suck too. So, but I am going with the 1 seed in the Western Conference, Jokic. This is a season we've never seen before by a center, and this is just incredible what this man does with the basketball. He's so fun to watch.
Yeah, I mean, I don't need to say much more than that. I think I'm pretty certain at this point that Jokic will win the MVP. I think the other 2 people that might get votes will be Luka and Tatum. But one guy I want to give more credit to that I don't think is taken seriously in the MVP conversation this year, but I think should be, is Ja Morant. I think he's kind of like the NBA's equivalent of Joe Burrow, kind of, where him and a coach came in at the same time and entirely changed the culture of a team who, I mean, had some success in the past, but was never elite. And and so yeah, you got the Zach Taylor Jenkins thing going on with the coaches. And yeah, I don't think Memphis without Ja Morant is not nearly as good. They've got some great players, and Tyus Jones could start for a lot of teams, so I'm sure he could fill in well, but they're certainly not at the top of the conference without Ja Morant.
Yeah, I agree. I love to say that Jokic is probably an MVP. I just feel that if the Grizzlies jump them, I think there might be a conversation there. That, well, they didn't finish first. And it pushes me to Jason Tatum. I think Jason Tatum has had probably one of his best seasons. I know defensively, people are saying he's a very lackluster defender. We watched a little bit of the game last night against the Golden State, and I said, this guy like walks down the court to defend every time. But he's doing it on the offensive end. He's been great. Jaylen Brown's was out for a little bit. So he's doing great. Doncic is putting up ridiculous numbers. So I think the only thing that hurts the case of Jason Tatum is that he's got to go out there and drop like 10 triple doubles at the end of the season. So I think that's a tough thing to do, but I think Tatum has a shot. I think Jokic will win it probably, but I wouldn't be out to say that I don't think Doncic could just get a flamethrower season going towards the end of half of this, and he just rips it apart and it eventually pushes Jokic to, have more of these triple-double games. On to Rookie of the Year. Who'd like to start this one out?
There are so many good rookies this year. Like, I think we need to appreciate how many guys came into the league year one this year and have been legitimate strong role players in the NBA in year one. Like, you talk about a guy like Tari Eason, like the Rockets brought in like 3 or 4 rookies, and whatever. That wasn't my point. Basically, he wasn't expected to be that strong of a player. He's a strong role player, but there's one answer for this question. Paolo Banchero is just on another tier compared to everyone else in terms of production and just the role he plays. Like, he's definitely gonna win the award. And yeah, also shout out Walker Kessler for coming out a little bit of nowhere and being one of the most impactful rookies.
I like Walker Kessler.
In this, the Rookie of the Year race ain't close. The like 2nd through 10th is probably close, but Paulo is going to win this. I don't know when the last time you saw a rookie come in and given the keys to the team like Paulo actually has. Like, you could say, like, when Zion and Ja came in, they were given the keys. I don't think they were given as much as Paulo has been for Orlando. I mean, they basically drafted him and said, this is your team. So Paulo's the Rookie of the Year. 21-7-4 as a rookie is crazy. I can't imagine what this dude's going to be averaging in year like 3 and 4. He's probably going to be up to 28 points and close to 10 boards a game. NBA is going to be crazy in a few years. These guys are going to be insane.
Yeah, I'd love to make the conversation for Benedict Mathurin. I think the only thing still hampering him is the fact that he's coming off the bench for the Pacers. The Pacers still have not put enough full faith into him as a starter. And I get it. You're trying to ease the guy in, but I mean, he's dropping 17 a game. I mean, seriously, he's dropping 17, 4. He's got like 2 assists each game like that. He's a good player. He's a good player, nevertheless. I do think I agree with you guys. Currently, I would just like to name the people Paolo Banchero has scored more points than this season. Klay Thompson, Tyler Hero, DeJounte Murray, Tyrese Halliburton, RJ Barrett, Jrue Holiday, DeMontis Sabonis, Jamal Murray, Christian Wood, DeAndre Ayton, Vucevic.
Well put, my friend.
He's doing this thing as a rookie. I mean, the only people he's behind, and I want this to be noted, he's 0.4 points per game behind Darius Garland. He is 0.2 he is 0.6 points behind Jalen Brunson and Anthony Edwards. I mean, he's doing really good things on a really bad team, which is, to me, that is the most mind-blowing thing, is how god awful that team is. So I think Banchero wins it. On to DPOI. This is where I really think the conversation is going to be interesting for DPOI.
I'll go third because I have something contrarian to say.
I'll start here then. I have Brook Lopez winning this award right now. He's having the best season of his career. He's averaging 15, 6 boards, and 2.5 blocks a game. And it's very close between him and Jaren. And I think the only thing that's separating Lopez and Jaren right now is Jaren plays less minutes because he fouls a bunch. Jaren fouls a little much. He already came out and said he got to work on it. But, man, and this is another reason why I love Memphis. The man is fouling so much, and he's not on the floor. Imagine when he's on the floor and not fouling. Like, they're going to be so good. So if Jaren can hold up the end on the fouls and come like right there with Brook Lopez and blocks, then I think Jaren has a very solid case for winning the award. But I give the edge to Brook Lopez right now.
I am actually not taking Brook Lopez or Jaren Jackson. I think Nick Claxton has done some very impressive things. This has been a Nick Claxton season that I'm a big fan of. I think he kind of got disrespected with the fact that, he's on a team with KD, Kyrie, all these true hoopers. He is averaging 3 less minutes than Brook Lopez, but 0.2 blocks, 0.3 steals higher, 2 rebounds higher per amount of time he plays. So he's been in a really good system. I think he's doing a lot of things. I think I'm just impressed by him. I get the, I'm a fan of Jaren Jackson Jr. Don't get me wrong. I think the fouling is a problem too. I'd like to see him step up his ability to play in the post. I think that's where he unfortunately gets destroyed. Like guys are just willing to drive on him. They get a foul every single time. I think there's someone off the page too that people are not talking about. I think Miles Turner's really been a really good defensive center this year. He's just behind Brook Lopez in blocks. And he's a very key contributor to the Pacers. But I think it's Brook Lopez and Nick Claxton's to really duel out for the rest of the season. Jaren could even be in there. But, if I'm the committee and I'm looking at it, the amount of fouls Jaren Jackson puts up is ridiculous. So if you want to say, oh, well, he's playing less time, I get that. But I think these two guys are being have been very crucial to their team this season so far.
I think in terms of who's going to actually win the award, I'll probably lean with the guys that Dallas was talking about. But I need to kind of get up on my high horse on this topic because this season or this year right now, it is harder than it has ever been to play perimeter defense in basketball. And it's harder than it was 50 years ago. It's harder than it was 20 years ago. It might even be harder than it was 1 year ago. Players are getting so much of a threat from the perimeter, and then also the amount of creativity in these offenses and off-ball movement and everything. And so that's why I think perimeter defenders need to be talked about more in terms of defensive player of the year. We saw that Marcus Smart won last year, correct?
Yes.
So we saw that last year that they gave it to a perimeter guy. And I think the guy this year has been the best perimeter defender is OG Anunoby. And he's a guy who oftentimes has to guard some of the best players in the league. And he's far more switchable than any of the guys we talked about earlier. And I'm pretty sure he leads the league in steals. So if you want to look at it from, who leads the league in XYZ, he's the guy who leads.
And the guys that are behind him in steals play like 10 to 15 less minutes than him. It's ridiculous.
So I think we need to give way more credit to perimeter defenders, and I don't think it's too questionable to say he's the best guy in the league this year.
I like that. I respect that. I will say I think perimeter defenders do need their flowers when they can get them, man, because those guys are busting their butts for a lot of these teams. But that was a good one, Rishi. I enjoyed that. I enjoyed that. Sixth man of the year. Where are we feeling with the sixth man here, guys?
This to me is the hardest award to judge on because most of the guys, that come off the bench and are sixth man, they do get starts throughout the season. So it's so tough to put it in just one category where sixth man, because obviously, Lou Will did it for so many years in a row coming off the bench. This year, I think there's a few guys that you can say that's been very good off the bench. And I know Matherin deserves a little bit of talk here, but I have him like third or fourth on the sixth man. I don't have Russell Westbrook first, but I have Westbrook as a guy that they probably look at. He's only started 3 games this year. Every other game he's been off the bench. That's huge in the sixth man run. He's averaging 17, like 6 and 7 or something like that. So everybody was dogging him last year, but he's come in off the bench, embraced it, having a really good season. My pick personally in 17 starts this year is Christian Wood. He's averaging 18 and 8. I knew he's a very good pickup for the Mavericks coming in. And the Bucks, man, they had this man. And I've seen him play in person a few times. This man is good. I really like the Mavericks getting him. He's a very good compliment to Luka. 18 and 8 off the bench. I like Christian Wood as the sixth man of the year. I think he deserves more recognition.
I think that unfortunately by the end of the year, he might end up starting too many games to be considered. I don't know. But yeah, I think he's an awesome player. I agree with you. And if you're talking about, you want me to pick one guy who's the best player in the NBA who's coming off the bench, I will say Russell Westbrook. Early in the season, I wanted to give it to Ben Mathurin, and I think right now, if you got to pick one person, I'll take Jordan Poole just based off the eye test. He's so much better than he was 5 years ago, and still coming off the bench, and he's a guy who on a lot of teams could definitely be starting.
So I'm actually going to go off the page a little bit here. This is a guy I've enjoyed watching so far this season, and I think deserves his flowers. Bones Highland has just been nothing short of fantastic. A great secondary ball handler. He plays with Jokic in Denver. I was like, yep. I thought he was on Utah for a second. Great secondary ball handler, 12 points a game. He has not started any games, I believe, this season. Gets 6 rebounds. He's a great guy. He only plays 20 minutes a game. So I think, for what he does in 20 minutes to get 12 points in 20 minutes is pretty impressive for him. So I really like him. He's a great player. I think Bones Highland deserves some love, but I think at the end of the day, I think Russ will probably win it. I think the contribution he's brought to the Lakers, who've been terrible this year. And he's improved himself, on like instrumental levels. So I think it's interesting to say, but I'd love to see Bones Highland win it personally.
And Rishi, I know you're talking about my pick with Christian Wood. You said he'd start too many games.
He might.
I'm sorry about Jordan Poole. He started 6 more games than Christian Wood. Jordan Poole has actually started in over half of the Warriors games this season. So
I guess
this is why I hate the sixth man of the year, because these guys that are considered sixth man, they do end up starting because of injury and other things like that. Like Curry's out, guess who you're putting in? You're putting in your sixth man. So it's such a tough award to pick. That's the only my reason on the award. I love the concept of the award, but it's so hard to pick because these guys.
I think Alex definitely picked a great true guy who's definitely a sixth man. But I think in terms of level of play, if I could take Christian Wood or Bones Highland, I'll take Christian Wood. So if he counts for the award, I'll take him. But I don't know if he counts for the award. Same with Poole.
And then we're on to MIP. I actually struggled with most improved player, guys. I'm gonna be honest. I was between two. Lauri Markkanen's had an absolutely stellar season. But I think SGA also deserves his flowers. This man is just continuously getting hurt and still just a straight bucket. He is dropping 30 right now per game with 5 assists, 1 steal, 1 block, and he's limited his turnovers. I think that was a thing that we saw him struggle with occasionally was turnovers. So he's a really good player. He's on a really bad team. I think he's improved. But I think Markkanen will win it because Markkanen's been on a really good team. He's been such a key piece for the team all year long, and he's almost averaging a double-double. But I think SGA definitely deserves some respect on his name. And I honestly hope the Thunder trade him at some point because he's rotting away down there.
Yeah, I also have SGA. I think the jump is just crazy. I'm trying to find the jump he's had this year, but I think it's just too much of a jump to say it's not him. There's some other guys in there like Halliburton that they have in there, but I think if you're averaging 30 a game, it's
Shea jumped 6.5 points. He added 2 more rebounds per game and 2 more assists per game this season.
And also, let me look at a stat here, and I'll come back. You can talk, Rishi. I'd like to see the stat first.
So I do want to look up what Lauri's stats were last year before I say what I was going to say. But what I was going to say is if I have to pick between the 2-horse race in Lauri and Shea, I think I'll take SGA in terms of most improved player. Oh man, yeah, Lauri Markkanen only averaged 15 a game last year, so that's a huge improvement. You rarely see that big of an improvement. And Shea had a jump of only 5 points a game. So yeah, I'll say in terms of who I think will win the award, I'll go with Lauri Markkanen. I want to shout out Anthony Simons because he's gotten an increased role the past 2 years. If he was gonna win it, it probably would have been last year because he had a bigger jump in stats last year. And then Jalen Brunson also was in a situation where he was gonna get an increased role in New York, and so if his numbers didn't improve, he was in a situation where a lot of people could have criticized him, and he's played well, so he deserves some credit too.
So I look at SGA here. I had to check my stats here, but he's averaging around the same amount of minutes played a game that he has throughout most of his career, except his rookie year. He's jumped 24.5 to 30.5, so up 6. The assists are pretty similar. The boards are pretty similar. But there's a few jumps that I like to talk about, and that's the field goal percentage up from 45 to 50. A guard shooting 50% from the field is crazy good. He's up 5% in his 3-ball category as well. And then this one, I think, gets lost in the art of basketball, but he's improved his free throw percentage from 81 to 91. And he's 5th best in the league in free throw percentage this year, behind Durant, Curry, Trey Murphy, and Tyler Hero. And he's right there at 91% at the line. And he's shooting, I believe, free throw. If you look at free throw attempts a game, he's right there. He's 4th in the league, averaging 10 free throw attempts a game. So he's going to go up there and make 9 out of 10 a night, which is crazy efficient. And just nobody else up here is doing that.
Yeah, that raises your floor as a scorer by so much if you're able to get consistent production from the line. And I think, I'll say who I would vote for. I'll vote for Shea. I think the person who ends up winning it will be Lauri.
Some good talk. Where do we feel on Coach of the Year? I don't know the Memphis coach's name, but I think he deserves it, honestly, at this point.
Taylor Jenkins. Did he win it last year?
I don't know, but that team just keeps getting better and better. So I'm just going to keep putting them on there.
Oh, wait. Tom Thibodeau win it last year?
Yeah, I thought Tibbs won it.
Interesting.
Monty Williams.
Last year was Monty Williams.
Yeah, Monty Williams won it last year with Thibodeau winning the year before. And this is an interesting one because half the time you can go, who's the best record in the league, blah, blah, blah. But you look at the year Thibodeau won, that was coming in, taking the Knicks from nothing to playoffs and 41-31. So that's why my coach of the year is Mike Brown in the Sacramento Kings. He has taken the Sacramento Kings from nothing. They got pieces to 25-18 and third in the Western Conference. That right there is a coach of the year. So that is who I am picking as the coach of the year as of right now.
I love that take. I'm trying to think of who I think the media will vote for. I think the fact that Joe Mazzulla is a first-year head coach and is probably going to end up having the best record in the NBA puts him in a good position to probably win it. But I think in terms of my favorite coaches in the league and in terms of what they're drawing up, it's a toss-up between Mike Malone and Taylor Jenkins.
Hey,
on
Dallas,
two different sides of the ball.
Who did you say, by the way? I'm sorry, I was not paying attention. That's on me.
Mike Brown.
All righty. That is it for the NBA. We'll be back to talk about it more as, the NFL does dissipate in. We do have a lot to talk about in the NFL next week. I want to talk about coaching hires so bad, guys, but until the playoffs are over, I can't talk about coaching hires.
Shout out to
because D'Amico Ryan's my guy. Colts are going to get him. Just kidding. But I will go over, Matt. Matthew, we are going to give you your flowers. You did pick a correct national championship. It was an absolute blowout, 65-7. Terrible game to watch. Last week's hot take, 2 weeks ago, hot takes. Matthew said the Lions would make the playoffs. Unfortunately, they missed out. Detroit did beat the Packers. Washington did beat Dallas, I believe. But Nathan Peterman did not go for 3 touchdowns and 200 yards. Come on, Nathan Peterman, man. Come on, get yourself together. Dallas had Oklahoma State beating Texas. They barely lost. Miami beating Virginia. And the Cavinder Twins having a big game. Fortunately, did not happen. This week, I'm going to open it up, gentlemen. I'm going with the player props this week. I have Daniel Jones dropping 2+ passing touchdowns, 200 yards, 1 rushing touchdown for 70 and 75 rushing yards. And I can't say Brock Purdy's nickname because it's too funny, but I'd get in trouble. But Brock Purdy is going to go for 200+ passing 2+ passing touchdowns and 300 yards.
There's no FedEx Air Player of the Week for the playoffs, correct?
No, last time you had it, you were a week off. So whoever you're going to say is going to be it for next week.
Oh, man. Well, mine is actually UFC. We've got the first pay-per-view in Brazil since COVID for the UFC. And so obviously a lot of Brazilian fighters on that card. In the 2 title fights, I'm going to take the 2 Brazilians, Davison Figueiredo and Glover Teixeira, as a little parlay for the hot take. They're both underdogs right now, but I like them both to win their titles. And then NFL is Giants straight up. Is that a hot take?
No,
Odds wise,
I think that's
whatever.
It's a pretty staunch take. I mean,
okay, and then I'll take San Francisco to win by 3 touchdowns or something. San Francisco by 3 touchdowns.
Dallas, bring them home. You already got T. Higgins, 100 yards, 2 tutties.
Yeah, I have T, 100 yards, 2 tutties. I'm
going to give you 100 all yards, by the way, because I don't want to. I'm going to give you all yards.
He won't rush, so he'll.
Yeah, okay, you say that in the first play, he's going to bust off a 75-yard end around, and you're going to be mad.
I'd love to see it. I'm going to stick college basketball for my hot takes, and I'm going to have Oklahoma, who we talked about earlier in the show, getting a big home win against ranked Baylor. That game is tomorrow, I believe. Yes, tomorrow. And then I'm going to slide over to the women's side, and this is a crazy hot take right here. I'm going to give you Arkansas, I believe, on Tuesday, 17-4, unranked. They go into South Carolina and knock off number 1 team, South Carolina, 19-0. They're going to hand South Carolina their first loss this season.
Gentlemen, we got some hot takes going this week. These are steaming. I can feel it. I can feel it through the screen. But it's been great to have you guys on. I know we had a little bit of a longer show today, but we did miss a lot last week, and we had a lot of good conversations. So, it's been great to have you guys on. We'll be back with you next week to get ready for a Super Bowl, guys. Super Bowl's almost here. And they're going to be ready to play some more. They're going to see if they can go 10 for 10 on Do You Know Ball. Next week's questions are going to be hard. I'm going to Google them right after here. So, but great to have you guys on. Great to have you all who are in the chat today. Just Rylan. Okay, nice. But great to have you guys on. See you guys next week.
Like and subscribe.
Post notifications.